Hello, friends! On the 11th of April 1970, NASA launched the Apollo 13 mission from the Kennedy Space Center in America. On board were 3 astronauts heading towards the moon. Just 9 months after Neil Armstrong first stepped on the lunar surface, this was NASA's 3rd attempt to send humans to the moon, and the previous missions had been great successes. Encouraged by this, the Apollo 13 crew commander Jim Lovell, lunar module pilot Fred Haise, and command module pilot Jack Swigert were confident and excited to fulfill their dream of walking on the moon. But they didn't know that this dream would never come true. Roughly 330,000 kilometers away from Earth, the astronauts suddenly heard a loud explosion that shook their entire spacecraft. Warning lights and alarms began flashing. They discovered that one of the oxygen tanks had burst and the other was rapidly leaking. Jack Swigert reported to Mission Control, Houston, "We've had a problem." At first, NASA thought it was just a malfunction in their instruments, but the astronauts confirmed the truth. They could see the gas leaking from their window. The explosion had also thrown the spacecraft off its intended path, sending it speeding further away from Earth. Soon, the Apollo 13 crew set a record. They became the farthest humans from Earth, reaching a distance of 400,000 kilometers, still unmatched today. Originally, the plan was to land at the Everett-Morrow crater on the moon, which scientists believed could hold key information about both the moon's and Earth's history. But after the explosion, not only was the moon landing out of the question, the real challenge became getting the astronauts back to Earth alive. Apollo 13 had started smoothly. For the first 2 days, everything went as planned, so much so that even the astronauts joked about boredom. Swigert's biggest concern was that he had forgotten to file his income tax return. It was a lighthearted moment that showed just how routine the mission seemed until disaster struck on the 3rd day. The spacecraft's oxygen tanks were designed to store oxygen in liquid form, using heaters to convert it into gas. During the routine check after the TV broadcast on the 3rd day, Tank No. 2 exploded. Later investigations revealed that the tank had suffered damage even before the mission during repairs months earlier. It had accidentally been dropped. The internal wires had been damaged, and during a pre-mission test, overheating went unnoticed because the thermometer could only read up to 30 degrees Celsius, while temperatures inside had reached 538 degrees Celsius. This damaged the insulation, and during the mission, it caused a spark that led to the explosion. Fortunately, the tank was on the exterior of the service module. Had it been inside the spacecraft, all 3 astronauts would likely have died. But even though the blast didn't kill them, it seriously compromised the mission. They had to decide how to return to Earth. The quickest route was to turn the spacecraft around and fire the main engine. But this engine was dangerously close to the explosion site and could have been damaged. The safer option was to continue toward the moon, loop around it, and use the moon's gravity to slingshot back to Earth, though it would take 4 to 5 days. NASA chose the longer, safer path. To conserve resources, the astronauts shut down the main command module and moved into the lunar module, which was never designed to support 3 people for that long. All non-essential systems, including heaters, were turned off. The cabin temperature dropped, and the astronauts had to ration water to just 200 milliliters a day to avoid urinating too much, because even the force of urine disposal could slightly alter the ship's path. They did the first engine burn to redirect their path and reached the far side of the moon, setting a distance record. But even this wasn't enough. Calculations showed they'd return to Earth with only 1 hour of oxygen, food, and water left, which was dangerously tight. So NASA instructed a second burn. Thankfully, the lunar module's engine survived the extra stress and reduced their flight time by 11 hours. Then another problem arose: carbon dioxide. The lunar module's lithium hydroxide canisters were only sufficient for 2 people for 2 days. And now there were 3 astronauts needing them for 4 days. There were more canisters in the command module, but they were while the lunar module's filter system was round. NASA's engineers scrambled to create a solution using only the materials available on board: plastic bags, cardboard, suit hoses, and duct tape. With step-by-step instructions from Earth, the astronauts built a makeshift filter that successfully reduced carbon dioxide levels. Throughout this ordeal, the astronauts were surviving in extremely difficult conditions. They lost a total of 14 kilograms among them, and Fred Haise developed a urinary tract infection. Nearing Earth, they realized the spacecraft had drifted off track due to vapors and gases from the cooling systems. A 3rd engine burn was required, again pushing the lunar module's limits. Fortunately, it held together. As the spacecraft prepared for re-entry, the astronauts moved back into the command module, the only part designed to survive Earth's atmosphere. When it entered the atmosphere, there was a communication blackout due to ionization, normally lasting 2 to 3 minutes. This time, the blackout extended beyond 4 minutes. NASA and the world held their breath. Finally, after 4 minutes and 27 seconds, contact was restored. The parachutes deployed, and the capsule safely landed in the Pacific Ocean. Despite failing to land on the moon, Apollo 13 became a legendary mission of survival and teamwork. It inspired books, movies, and admiration across the world. NASA learned important lessons and introduced new safety measures for future missions. After Apollo 13, NASA successfully launched Apollo 14 through 17. On the 7th of December 1972, Apollo 17 became the last manned mission to the moon. No human has returned to the moon since. If you're curious why, you can watch my video on Apollo 11, which explores that in detail. Thank you very much.